It seems like these organisations seem to take in more than they use, and sometimes the help they say they give seems immaterial. And what are selling or burn? But if you disagree and think that it's perfectly fair to take all that money, then you should call us, because the show starts now. Hello there, everybody.
Look at them beautiful people.
You can see that this is a very special edition of Talk Heathen. We are here on Sunday, 16th of August, live at the Free Thought Library with our wonderful participants who came to the back cruise yesterday. Thank you very much for turning up. Fantastic for everyone being here. I am Jamie Limeyman, Atheist Buster. And I'm joined today by two very chill, cool people. That would be Christy Powell and Sofia Spina. How are you doing?
Amazing. You gave me chills with that cold open there, Jamie. Got me.
So, as ever, Talk Heathen is a call-in show. It is a property of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 non-profit organisation dedicated to the furtherance of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And as well as being live in the studio today, we are also tri-streaming. So hello YouTube, hello YouTube Mobile, and hello out there on TikTok. So if you want to get involved with the show, you can do so by either calling 512-991-9242 if you're old school. You can go through the YouTube link, which is aca.show/call. Or if you're on TikTok, you can request up, but do make sure that you are 18 or over. We may have to verify that before we bring you up, T's and C's. And while our topic today is, religion as a business, we're happy to talk about any kind of discussion around belief, around faith, around all kinds of topics, life, the universe, and everything, whatever you want to throw at us. I was actually challenging a few people on TikTok to call in about whether we can truly judge the justice of Christianity, for example, and do we have the wherewithal to do so, not being God and all that. And, of course, this would not be possible if it wasn't for the wonderful crew, who a lot of them are in studio with us today. Let's see that crew cam.
A lot of moving pieces.
They're there, we promise. That's the audience. They're pretty cool, so still.
They're a really great crew. We swear that they are. It's a lot of moving pieces getting those videos all set up.
Yeah. And,
sometimes they're shy, the camera,
And so they will pop themselves up if they feel the deign to do so. But if you want to become part of this illustrious crew, either as part of the production, or if you want to help with our more in-person outreach and volunteer opportunities, then you can. Send yourself an email to volunteer@atheist-community.org. That's volunteer@atheist-community.org. You can look into joining our Atheist Vanguard. You can become part of the crew. And heck, you may even turn up being a co-host or host if you so try. With all that said, how are you all doing? What do you think of the topic? Anything on your minds?
I mean, I'm stoked to be here. It is, as you mentioned, the back cruise weekend. So we had a bunch of people, on our back cruise last night. We had a fun after party. We had different events going on yesterday. So I'm exhausted but stoked. I may or may not have heard from someone I may or may not be really married to any longer that I have bags under my eyes. So if you're watching, then that's why. It's because I'm just amazing. And we've been having parties all weekend.
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild time.
This is the early show, so the fact that as many people drag themselves out of their hotel rooms to actually be here in the studio audience as they did is really just a mark of dedication, I think.
Yes, thank you all for turning up with varying degrees of hangover, I'm sure. So, yeah, as I say, this is a call-in show. We do still have open lines, and if you want to call in on TikTok, and I'm going to have to Shanghai my co-host, maybe Christy, to if Control, I think they will notify us if a TikToker wants up and wants to talk. So just
for sure,
let me know, and feel free to cut me off mid-sentence because we want to make sure that we give our callers priority. But on to the topic, the main topic. I as you can probably tell from the accent, I'm not from Rowney's Pots. I grew up in England, where, of course, there's religion. We have state religion. But it isn't as overtly commercialized as a lot of very prominent American
America does that really, really well. Like, if we can advertise it, commodify it, absolutely make it a business. And I have to say, this topic is one that I feel it just stirs weird things up in me, and it's difficult for me to navigate on sort of this side of deconstructing faith. Because growing up as a kid, I went to kind of every type of church for a year or two. My parents hopped around a little bit. My dad was on a real journey to find the right and proper one true Christian church. And so that meant that we went to a couple of large churches. We spent a little bit of time in some mega-ish type churches, but mostly we were in high school gymnasiums. We were in a barn for a good spell. We were having living room churches. Like, I've seen mostly the small and a few of the big. And going through that experience as a child, there was so much rhetoric around how those mega churches weren't preaching the real God and how they didn't actually know Jesus and how it was actually a much narrower path that you were supposed to be on. And now that I've deconstructed my faith, in toto, I still have some kind of like squiggly uncertainties about who gets to be a real Christian, whether a vow of poverty is actually part of the package deal, or certainly how to feel about, Joel Osteen books littering the airports. Like, I don't know. There's a lot to sort through here.
It's interesting because I think my perspective, we almost used that not wanting to judge as a thought-stopping technique in some of the churches that I was a part of. So my mother was Church of Christ. My father was Catholic. They never got us organized enough to go to church consistently altogether. 4 kids, that's a lot. I barely get 2 out of the house. And so I ended up going to a conservative Baptist church in our town. And it was very much like it would have dreamed of being a megachurch. And so while there would be criticisms of like, oh, well, this is performative Christianity or something, there was always this justification that came along the lines of, well, you don't know their heart. So,
God has blessed them with prosperity.
Exactly, right? And so you can't judge that. And maybe they're reaching people through that. And that became used as this justification for everything, including, I was in the rampant purity culture days, right? So wearing a tight Hollister shirt, I remember someone justified it as, well, hey, maybe I'm bringing people to God through this. And I'm like, so we just use that for everything.
Sex appeal, it sells.
Flirty fishing is the name for it, right? But so it was kind of interesting. I was in these churches where like I was aware of the critiques, but so often it was just shoved aside because it felt like, well, we wanted these nice things. We wanted to feel like people liked us. We wanted to feel like the popular kid. And so we just kind of shirked off some of those criticisms about materialism. That's like, it's fine.
Well, and we had so much fire and brimstone that we had no problem being judgmental about those things, which does kind of bring up the opposite angle of, wait a second, what are we doing being judgmental within our Christian faith? Like, I don't want to sit here in this platform and be like, well, if every Christian or every congregation doesn't have everything completely figured out, then the Bible must be bullshit. Of course, that's a ridiculous argument. But it does really go to highlight just how malleable so many of these principles are, how the values of the Bible are not codified in the ways that we tend to think of them. And when a preacher stands at a pulpit and says, this is the will of God, know that he is ignoring like the other 97% of that scripture to make this particular point.
And the thing is with the materialism, that's the sort of intrinsic problem of like you like treating religion like a business, like a money making or a power accruing venture. But the thing that always struck me is the fact that they would use the same kinds of tactics that you would see with business, like billboards and advertising slogans and like incentives, like come to our church and get a thing and come for a free lunch and stay. It often felt like they were trying to sell me a timeshare or something like that.
Yeah.
Timeshare in heaven.
No, the timeshare comparison is pretty apt. And so is ultimately the product that you're buying. Like, it is so exhausting to recognize that it's often framed as, this is charitable, this is doing good work. Give your money to the church and you are supporting our mission work. You are supporting all of the, food banks and charities that we're a part of. But without financial disclosures on those things, it's so easy to scratch the surface and recognize how much of that money is just evaporating.
Yeah, I think when I think about the business of the church, and I think back to my time in the church, something that was very present was Christian media. And that idea, I remember being in youth group and they would show us like a video of, some new Christian movie or a Christian, speaker, just Christian music that they deemed was acceptable. And genuinely thinking like, this is so much worse than some secular stuff I know. But because you
Kirk Cameron can't direct a film. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Yeah.
The number of, there are these like abortion movies
Sorry.
of like these, I survived my abortion and then I went and confronted my mom and it was supposed to be really meaningful or something like that. They were just terrible and melodramatic and cringy. And I remember but you have a captive audience. So there's so much money in the kids who can only listen to the Christian music and watch the Christian movies.
We'll get on to that. I'm going to bring a little pause to it because we do have a caller in the queue. We'll get to you in just a second. But there is a continuation of this conversation spurred by a good friend of the show and also Back Cruise attendee, Drew, genetically modified skeptic. He did a whole video on the predatory business practices around religion. We will talk about that in a moment. But right now we have a caller. We have Lisa, her, calling in from Canada and wants to ask, they're an atheist, and they want to ask, would it be better to qualify religion as a grift rather than a business? So we're going to bring you in, or I'm going to try and bring you in. Hello, Lisa, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay? All right, they told me not to ask that.
Oh, no, yeah. It's fine. We all, ignore them. They're blowhards. Anyway, don't ignore them, though. But what's on your mind? Give us a bit of an outline of what...
It's an interesting question. I'd love to hear you kind of spell that out and maybe define our terms a little bit. If we could start by talking about what is a grift? What is a business? Please, go for it, Lisa.
Well, I guess in short... The idea that it's a business, like I understand that there's a lot of pandering to tithing and all that with churches, and not just churches, but any really religious institution. But not all businesses are scams, right?
Good point.
And I feel like religion is more of a scam. At least in some denominations, it's more of an obvious scam to me because I see these people, Paula White and the what's her name, Catherine Crick, and they're like, I need you to sow a $3,000 seed if you want to feel better about your life, or
oh yes,
and I feel like you're just exploiting someone who's vulnerable. Like, where's that seed going to go? It's going to go into their pocket. It's not going to help them feel better.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, good points. And you, excellent point about not all businesses are scams. Secret, fun fact: this is a business. We're a non-profit.
Right, sure. Yeah.
I work for a charity in my day job. That's a non-profit, but it's also a business. We have a CEO, we have a pay structure, we have business things, we have marketing and the like. So yeah, seeing business as an intrinsically good or bad thing is not, productive, I don't think. And I take your point there. I'm going to try and be charitable to religion as a whole, which may sound weird. That we could take it on a sort of case-by-case basis. That if a particular sect or congregation is open about how much money they take, what they use it for, justify what they do with it, like treat it like a charity treats it, like be open and transparent about the way that they use the money they're given, and that their congregation is actually getting some kind of observable, tangible good out of it, be it community or support or these kinds of things that aren't necessarily religious. You can get this through secular means. That's what we're trying to do here at the ACA, is become a sort of secular version of the kinds of support structures that people often get from their church. But, yes, the entire prosperity gospel, for one. Any other nominations for things we can just put the grift stamp on?
Yeah, well, so if I may, let me draw a comparison. Let me know if this is fair, because this conversation reminds me of the work of Amanda Montell when she writes about the distinction between a religion and a cult. And there are so many people that have all of these criteria for this is why this is a cult, or other people will say, well, all of Christianity or all of Catholicism or whatever is a cult. And she eventually comes down to the idea that cult is really just another word that means religion, except we're using it pejoratively. That it's only ever a cult when you're standing outside of it, wagging your finger at it. And that doesn't mean that we can't look at something and say, oh yeah, that's pretty cultish, or that's pretty messed up, or that is deeply problematic or scammy. And I think that we can say here that any organized church that has their tax paperwork in order or whatever else is in fact a business. Is that business grifting people? Is that business problematic? Is that business ethical? We can, definitely have our criticisms and our concerns, but I think to say that, all religion is a grift is kind of accurate in the same way that saying all religion is a cult. But also when you talk about it in those terms, you start to lose people because you're being pejorative about it. I think, how does that strike y'all?
So if I might jump in a little bit with, I think a grift needs a grifter. Like, I think even if you are incorrect, if it's a sincerely held belief and you really believe that you're doing something for the good of others and doing it to the best of your responsibility, I don't know that would qualify as a grift. So I simply wouldn't say that all religion is a grift, because this is going to be like not a scientific take, but
no, linguistically though, I do like that aspect of it, that you're bringing in intention.
If there's authenticity in it, then I think grifting requires that it's not true. So I think of, certain small town preachers I've known. I disagree with them vehemently. I think they say things that are perhaps terrible. I'd really rather the money that supports them goes elsewhere. But I also genuinely think they believe it, right? I don't think they are running a grift. Yeah. I do think it's interesting, though, because one of the things that, you mentioned planting a seed of this amount of money and you're taking from the vulnerable. I think one of the things that religion can uniquely do sometimes is, or maybe not totally uniquely, is take things that are not monetary as part of the grift or as part of the sacrifice you expect your members to make. And so when I think about planting the seed, I think, weirdly, going back to purity culture, going back to don't hang out with your friends who are doing these things, reject all of these experiences you might want to have, obey these powers over you. Those are all like investments into your eternal life. You almost end up having your whole life kind of grifted away from you from some folks because they will just keep taking. I think religion has an ability to take over your whole life in that way. So what's at stake, whether grift or business, is almost more than just monetary,
So what are your thoughts on all that, Lisa? What's going through your head now?
Well, to the point that was made earlier that, sorry, I don't want to sound like a nerd because I made.
Oh, we're all
nerd shit. Yeah, we're debating linguistics by all means on the internet. No
I'm
less.
in MythBusters cosplay. I mean, you're in the right company. So what's on your mind?
I think that religion, someone can truly believe that it's real and at the same time take advantage of others. And it doesn't matter what the intention is. The nervous system reacts to impact, not whether or not they try.
You're perpetuating harm. No, I think that's an important component. I think that as people in our community, in the atheist community, who have deconstructed their religion, one of the most difficult things for us to grapple with is the reality that not only did we get suckered, but we participated. We suckered in other people. We contributed financially. We contributed our time. We spread a lot of these lies. And so I do think it's really important that you're highlighting that component to it, that you're causing harm regardless of the how or the why of it.
And also, the other thing is that, you're talking about the difference between a religion and a cult, and that cult is often used in a pejorative term. But the thing is that every religion started out as a cult.
If we are defining a cult as a very, very small religion, which is one kind of form of that word or one way that terminology is often used.
And we can look at Christianity. The persecution of the early Christianity wasn't even called Christianity up until about the 2nd or 3rd century with Constantine. It was seen as a fringe radical group of Judaism that needed to be persecuted and shut down, that they were telling lies about, the becoming of the Messiah, and they were false prophets. And so, we see that same kind of language with new emerging religions in today's world, right? So I in as much as I would like to say that not all religions are grifters, I would like to say that I think that sometimes grifting happens without bad intentions, but I think it's very easy to manipulate an invisible product saying, hey, if you tithe 1/10 of your salary every Sunday, you're going to get into heaven. Don't worry about the afterlife. Same thing with the Catholic Church and their sales of indulgences. The more money you give, the more we reserve a place for you in heaven. And I think I was wondering if it would be okay if I could tell you a small personal story of why I think the way I do.
Okay, well, as long as it's not too long, just...
No, it's not going to be too long.
Okay.
No, just like a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I about 10 years ago, I have a very severe mental illness. I'm a huge advocate in mental health. And 10 years ago, I once went to this church. I thought that maybe I just felt lonely. I didn't know what to do. And I thought maybe these would be people who would help me. And I was only making about $600 a month. That's not enough to even pay 1 week now. But, and they said to me that, they asked me, do you tithe? And I said, well, no, I only earn $600 a month. I need that medication. I need that for my medication. And they said, well, it says in the Bible, you're supposed to tithe 1/10. And I was like, yeah, but I need that for my medication. And to me, I see that as you care more about someone giving the very little money that they have to the church than being able to stay well. Come on, that's bullshit.
Yeah, if we ultimately boil it down to the idea that you are taking in real capital in exchange for a imaginary product, maybe it gets a lot easier to just whole cloth say that is a grift.
Yeah, it sounds like
I don't think grifting always has to come with bad intentions, and I don't think that every pastor. I'm pretty sure Paula White doesn't believe herself that, quote, whatever ground I step on is God's ground. Whatever ground the leader of the United States steps on, that's holy ground. I'm pretty sure she herself doesn't believe that.
Well, we can't know.
I don't know. Yeah. I think that I see why you would sort of reach that conclusion. I think it's shocking to me what some folks will believe, things that I'm like, that has to be fantastical, right? And then turns out, no, they seem to at least
never not
believe
surprised by how dyed in the wool people can be.
I definitely don't think it means we don't call out the harm. And I think that something that we could probably all agree on is that the situation you were in is just disgusting. That's repugnant that somebody approached you with that instead of with kindness or compassion or empathy, particularly in a place where you were looking for community.
Yeah.
So kind of whatever words we use there, that's really disgusting. And I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, I mean, that was a terrible thing that was going through. And we hear stories all the time of certain congregations and sects deliberately preying on the weak and disenfranchised and the mentally ill to get their way. However, in the spirit of fairness and to kind of reinforce what Christy was saying earlier, we need to assess like harm to good. And while we can sit back and academically say that all religions are based on essentially a lie, on a mistruth or a fabrication, an unfalsifiable claim, fair enough. You've probably noticed the world's kind of a bit crap right now. We're a bit in the shit. And those of us that want to see social justice and progression towards a better future need to find allies. And sometimes we need to find those allies among the faithful. Even here at the ACA, we are very selectively reaching out to certain other groups who are of faith because they align with our values. And the way I say it and the way I see it is, yes, I will sit down with you, O believer, and discuss your epistemology and talk about what you believe and why and how rational those thoughts are over a cold beverage of your choice once we've burned fascism to the ground. So, yeah.
I guess to conclude, when you say it like that, I mean, sitting down with someone and just talking about whether or not there's an existence of something beyond us, that to me, I see that as more of a like deism, or maybe more of just a spiritual journey, as opposed to an institution that is asking for 1/10 of your earnings to go straight to the Vatican, where I guess this guy who loves Jesus and follows Jesus' teaching lives in a huge, rich castle. But
Yeah, the dragon horde that is the Vatican is a entire episode of this show unto itself.
Yeah.
There's so much to be said about the enormity of the endowment there and just the like mind-boggling numbers that get attached to every evaluation, and the fact that so much of it is done in secret, the fact that there is so little financial disclosure. If we compare it to any other form of charity where there is generally, depending on the country we're talking about, et cetera, expectations that there be transparency on those numbers, it starts to feel kind of grifty. It starts to feel scammy when you're not able to get clear answers of how much money is coming in and where any of that money is going, when other businesses, even for-profit organizations, are expected to be much more transparent in those ways.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Sophia?
No, just an interesting conversation. I feel like I could go down kind of the linguistic differences, and does it matter if there's a difference in how we use these different words, but I've enjoyed the conversation, and I feel like we could probably do this all day, but yeah.
Yep.
Don't worry though, with that person I told you about, I was still sane enough. I almost said it out loud, but I didn't. But I was going to say, I'll give you 10% of jack shit.
Love it.
Which one of my capacious butt cheeks would you like to eat first? So? But
thankfully, I didn't. I wasn't ill enough in that I couldn't make decisions, and I got the actual proper care at the hospital that I needed. So
glad to hear you're on the mend and taking good care of yourself. We really appreciate you giving us a call, spending part of your Sunday with us.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa, and it was a fantastic conversation, and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
Okay, you too.
And away they go, I think.
All right,
yes.
Bye-bye then.
Yes. You have to press it twice.
You do know it's thrown me off before.
I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. I'm not completely falling apart. We do have another caller in the queue. Thank you very much for your patience, and we will get to you in just a moment, but there's a couple of other things I have to do as a host before we move on. I've got a few little announcements. For example, if you want to support the ACA, there's several ways you can do it. You can send us super chats. If super chats come through, one of my wonderful co-hosts will read it out, because I can't see shit, Captain, so I'm just going to have to leave it to them to do with that. If you want to get some fine atheist-styly clobber, that's merchandising English.
Clobber? Yeah.
Yeah, some proper clobber,
Never
mate.
heard that.
Yeah.
I feel like British slang, you're just making stuff up.
Look, clobber.
Clobber.
Clobber on the screen.
Clobber. There is some clobber. Many goods clobbers. That's not real.
Clobbing.
Clobbering,
Did we just get demonetized? Are we allowed to say anything?
Is that a slur? I don't know. But anyway, you can go to aca.show/merch. We have specific merch for each of our shows, and we also have a year-round Pride collection, which is awesome because, every day's Pride here at the ACA. You can get involved by donating through Zephy. We have our Zephy as well, which is great. And lastly but not leastly, we have our Patreon. And every week we shout out. I'm getting more and more English by the second.
I know, you said clobber, and it's all downhill from
Just
there.
brings it up.
Okay, we're going Brummy for the next bit. So we got these wonderful people on our Patreon, and we're going to have Christy Powell right at the top 5 patrons. Will you do that for me, Armand?
Yeah, our top
do you know
5
what he's asking
patrons
you to
this
do?
week. I'm just going with the script that I'm familiar with. This is a name you'll recognize, of course. At the top, we have Dingleberry Jackson, Oops All Singularity, Kalevi Helveti, Casey Kickendall in the number 4 spot, and number 5 is again just a period.
Yeah.
Our honorable mention this week in the number 6 spot is JP Young.
Okie dokie.
Sincere thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon and all the other ways that people show their support and keep this organization running.
Yeah, we couldn't do what we do without you. And if you, again, want to get involved with that, it'll be aca.show/Patreon/TH. Right, well, fantastic times. We have another caller. We have a theist caller online. We have Todd, no pronouns given, calling in from Wyoming, wants to talk about religion as a business and how the story of Cain and Abel transcends individual cultures and traditions. So here we go.
Interesting notion. I'm excited to hear about it.
So, Todd, how is Todd feeling today, and what is on Todd's mind?
I feel great. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad, thank you.
Yeah.
I just noticed on your headline here that you guys are atheists, which I don't have a problem with. The reason why I was calling is because I seen the headline that says religion is a business.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically true.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because it goes back to selfishness. It goes back to the want. It goes back to the need. I was telling your screener about the story, or the reason I brought up the story of Cain and Abel is because even though that story is in the Bible, that story also transcends other cultures, such as in ancient China, they were called yin and yang. In ancient Egypt, they were called Horus, and I can't remember his brother's name. The reason I bring that up is because I don't believe in the Bible. Let me be clear. The Bible is made up. There's some things in there that divinely inspired by God, because I do believe in God. God is not about the Bible. I just want to make that clear. For all the people out there that can hear my voice, if you believe in God and you believe in that book, here's an equation for you to follow so that you can find the truth in that book. The man Jesus was crucified. He wasn't God. He was just a man, just like me, just like you, just like anybody listening to my voice.
Okay,
he was
Todd.
just a man.
Todd, I'm going to just cut you off there for a second, Todd. We don't really. This isn't really a platform for Todd to preach. So we.
I just wanted to make a point about why the world is the way it is and why business or religious is a business.
Okay.
It all goes back to. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I'm coming through loud and clear, Todd.
Okay. It all goes back to the fact that we're all of Cain. You see, when Cain snuck up behind his progressive liberal brother Abel and caved his head in with a rock, that deed redounded to us.
So, Todd,
we all have the ability to pick up that rock.
Todd,
Okay.
Todd, we are very aware of the story of Cain and Abel. That God in the story shunned Cain because he brought the vegetables for the sacrifice, and Cain provided.
I'm only bringing that up as an example for my ultimate point.
Yes.
And my ultimate point is we all have that inside of us. Every one of us, we all have good and evil inside of us. We also have free will, and we get to choose whether or not we're going to shit on other people to get what we want. That's why the world's so screwed up. And that's why religion is a business, because most people that are religious and try and turn that into a business, they're embracing their inner Cain, and they're trying to shit on other people to get what they want. And what better way to do that than to convince people that you have to buy your way into heaven?
Okay, Todd. Todd.
Help me understand here. How is what you're saying any different from what I'm about to say, which is just that there are bad things in the world because people have the ability to choose to do bad things? Is that kind of everything? Is that the whole ethos?
Right. And most people choose to do bad things because it's easier. It's easier to project your hatred than it is your love.
Maybe. That one I'm kind of curious about is...
Whether you're an atheist or
Okay,
religious...
Todd, I don't want to have to mute you, sir.
Yeah,
but
we'd
you've
love
got to
to
let us
have a
talk.
conversation, a little bit of back and forth, because we're trying to grab what you say and then understand it and respond to it.
Okay, I've never done this before.
That's okay. So I'm curious because I understand that sometimes evil and wrong can seem convenient, right? Particularly if we think about cowardice, that's a classic example. It's easier to be a coward and not to ruffle feathers than it is to stand up and be brave. But I wonder, when we think about religion as a business, we're thinking about it as this large kind of top-down organization. When we think about it that way, I feel like the possibility exists that those who want to do evil are more drawn to these mechanisms of power, not necessarily that people are inherently more evil than good. I think some of the stories you brought up sort of imply balance, like that there are both. And so, yeah, I think I would have a hard time saying that it's just we want to do evil, we'll screw people over more than we will like build community and love one another, because the things that get headlines, the things that negatively impact us, are the ones we're going to remember.
Right. And I agree with that. But what I'm saying is the reason why most people choose to do that is because they're embracing their inner Cain.
So what does that mean practically? Do they actively choose to take on this personification of evil, or what does that look like in a day? If I'm going to go out into the world after this and embrace my inner Cain, what does that actually look like?
You're going to go out and step on people. You're going to put people down. You're going to basically be negative. I mean, look at the way the world is. I don't know where you guys are at in the United States.
Yeah, so, I guess I just need to clarify a little bit about what it means that people are mostly evil, or that they're mostly choosing evil. I think we could philosophically all sit here and say, if evil was a thing that existed, or if we're just talking about negativity or negative outcomes or whatever, sure, it'd be great if there was less of it, maybe none of it. We want people to be happy. This is all so nebulous that I'm struggling with some of the language. But okay, sure. If evil is a thing, then it would be better to have less of it, perhaps even none of it. But if we are sitting here upset about how the world is terrible and the world is evil, how much evil should we anticipate? If you were going to create a sim Earth, if you were going to create humanity, if you were going to create culture or whatever else, how much evil is the prerequisite, and why do we feel like there's too much of it or more than we would expect? I just don't understand this framework that feels as if there is this irrational amount of selfishness or Cainedness in the world.
What I'm saying is evil starts with man. You see, we manifest good and evil through our deeds. That's why the world is so messed up right now.
Okay.
If you want to do good for people, and that manifests God. If you want to do bad for people, that manifests Satan.
Okay, so there's a few points here, Todd. I'm going to interject here just a second that are sort of scratching at the back of my head. For one thing, we don't believe that good and evil manifests God or Satan, because we don't believe that those beings exist. That's one thing, and that good and evil.
I'm not convinced that good and evil exist, but that might be too far afield.
Yeah,
for
we
us.
could say moral, immoral, ethical, unethical, harmful, beneficial, like that kind of thing. That's one thing. But you're using these terms, and Todd, give me a second. You're using these terms and referencing these characters. You're talking about God and Satan, Cain and Abel and Jesus.
Horus and his brother.
Yeah, well, no, specifically the Christian ones, because I want to get back to a point that you said earlier in the conversation, Todd. How did you learn about all of these characters?
Well, from the Bible.
But you said the Bible's not true. You said the Bible's bullshit.
That's just it. But wait a second. That's why I brought up the fact that the story of Horus and his brother and yin and yang.
Yeah.
That transcends other cultures. I'm not trying to say that.
So what that tells me, Todd, is that brotherly infighting and selfishness are parts of the human condition, are completely natural and transcend culture, and is actually evidence against the existence of a god or gods, because it doesn't matter which god you believe in, people can be assholes sometimes.
Because they choose to.
Sure. I mean, maybe they do. Maybe they don't know better. Maybe they genuinely have a different idea of what is good. Like, there's still a lot of wiggle room within this. I don't think we've proved that it's a choice. It's just present.
Where are you guys at? Are you here in the United States?
Yes, we're in Texas.
Okay, great. So then you're living with all the bullshit that I'm living with. About president in a White House, and nobody's doing anything about it. They're choosing to protect him. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are problems in society. Like, nobody is in argument with you about that, Todd. There are things that I wish were different. I would not be volunteering my time with a 501c3 nonprofit if I didn't think that the world could be better than it is right now. We want things to change. There are things we want to change. Where do you get to this idea that the way things are is bad, that the way things are is evil? I might point to, hey, really seemed like 5-10 years ago we were on a better path as a country here in the United States, but that's a policy position that we can debate and have like very, kind of specific ideas and notions on. This grander concept that the world is somehow more evil than it ought to be, more evil than the world that we were promised. I mean, who told you that? How did you come to this idea that this isn't to be expected, that it's only supposed to rain this many days a year and not that many days every year, that we're supposed to have these things? Where's the should and the ought of all of this coming from?
Wouldn't you consider the trafficking of children evil?
Of course, Todd.
Yeah.
Apologize. I'm trying to stay calm and chill.
It's a bad thing, no question. Like, if we want to illustrate through extremity, there are things in this world that I don't like and things that I would like to change. But I still come back to, what is a world that would be acceptable? This is not me dismissing the significance of that pain or those problems. This is not me dismissing the importance of working to change those things. This is me just trying to get at the basic fundamental concept of, it's not like we were promised a perfect world and we're falling short. We are not bad at being angels. I actually think we're kind of amazing at being apes. And there are so many things we could do better at. Believe me, there are things we could be doing better at as a whole. But this idea that the world is evil, is gone to shit, I don't understand it.
It hasn't gone there. It's always been that way. Ever since we crawled down out of the trees, we've been fighting each other over resources, over the fire. We used to fight over women. I mean, it's been going on since we crawled down out of the trees. That's who we are.
I do just feel the need to point out women also came out of the trees at the same time. We're also we're a same species, believe it or not.
They're included in the we. Women are included in the we.
So, there's that.
I'm trying to be sexist. Don't get me wrong. I'm not misogynistic.
I think what I would sort of bring up, though, is that even if we say, like, here's all of these terrible things that have happened throughout time, there's also kind of amazing things. I believe it's Margaret Mead who talked about the first sign of civilization that she really felt she saw was not like the wheel, it wasn't fire, it was evidence of a mended bone, because it meant that someone needed to take resources and effort and time and keep this person alive when they were no longer strictly helpful to the tribe. It's humanity, ultimately. It's the beginnings of what we'd see as humanity. So, I don't know, it's really easy to give like a huge litany of all the things that are wrong. It starts to kind of feel like a little bit of a weed-heavy college conversation when we're saying this without specifics, They do bad things, people are evil. All right, whether I agree or disagree, I don't really know what to do with that unless, what is it we can do today. You know, what is it that I can help you with? What can we make our communities look like? Those specifics require a little more sometimes than just a recognition that there's always been good things and always been bad things, you know?
Right. No, I agree with that.
Okay. Let me take a slightly different tack with this. Let's pivot the conversation slightly. So Todd, what was Todd hoping to get out of this call? What objective does Todd have with this call? What was the hope to get out of it, basically?
Well, I was just going by your headline that you guys were talking about how religion is a business, and that's true.
So Todd was just wanting to just be heard. He simply wanted to make a statement. Todd wanted to make a statement.
I guess basically, I'm pissed off because I've had a political chip on my shoulder since 12 years old. I've seen conservative malfeasance run amok in my country, and nobody does anything about it to the point where we have a pedophile for a president.
Well, okay. So, Todd, we've got to be a little bit careful around political topics as we are 501c3. We cannot mention names or parties.
I think do you mind if I jump in here, Jamie?
Yeah.
I think, Todd, the thought that I would really want to leave you with is just how black and white so much of your rhetoric is here. You know, you talk about how there are all of these grifts and all of these problems in our politics, and agreed. There's so much to be angry about. Again, I would not be here volunteering doing this kind of work if I didn't think that the world could be better and wanted to do something about making it be better. And that's what I really want you to look for and want you to notice. I mean, you don't need to pat me on the back. You don't need to give a shit about this organization or the work that we're specifically doing. But I heard you say, like, nobody's doing anything about it. You can say we're not doing enough. You can say we ought to do more. We can have these conversations about all of the opportunities that are being missed out on. But all I hear from you is this notion that everything is evil, and that's just evil, and it's the evil and the evil. And I really want you to ask yourself, how much would be enough? What would we expect? Like, why do we have it in our heads that we shouldn't have social problems, that we should never be bad guys in our government? We should work to get rid of those bad guys or whatever else. But this idea that nobody is doing anything, that it's not enough, I'm not trying to be glass half full about the meaningful problems in our society, but I would hope that you would take your moral philosophy and your moral framework and find some radical acceptance around the way things actually are.
Yeah, no, I shouldn't have said that nobody is doing anything, because there are a lot of good groups out there trying to change things. The people that aren't doing anything that should are the ones that have all the power, the elected officials, okay? Like all the people that are standing in the way of Zoran Mamdani.
So again, we do have to rein it in back from kind of mentioning really specific political parties. And
oh yeah, you said that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize. I've never done this before.
I think I would encourage you to look
at everybody in the world, and I don't want to see anybody die. And I know what's coming is going to be bad, and I just don't want to see it.
You know, I think that it can be so incredibly overwhelming to look at kind of the world as a whole, and there are so many things, we're bombarded with so many things we see that might be evil, or we might feel that they need to change, and full agreement, there's tons. But I think a little bit of relief can be found from looking to your community. You know, it might feel really lonely, but even just finding anyone doing anything, you know, soup kitchens, whatever it might be, just so it feels like there's actual presence of decent people. It doesn't mean stop focusing on things on a national or a world stage, but I'm curious, are you kind of connected with local people trying to do good things and affect change where you are?
No, I live in the middle of Bigottville, Wyoming, and I'm surrounded by conservatives that love Trump, and I'm in a desert. I have nobody around me that represents me. My representation is like Zoran Mamdani, or, you know, I mean, God, I did it.
No, I recognize how alienated you feel and how easy it can be to highlight the negativity in the world. And it's worth remembering that that's kind of the way our brains are built. You know, we don't have to get too deep into an evolutionary rabbit hole to just recognize that it can be valuable and useful for an ape swinging through the forest to remember all of the good trees and the trees that have the good fruit. Like, that's evolutionary selected for. That's helpful. But remembering the bad trees that have snakes on them and that have alligators underneath them, like, that is existential. That is absolutely vital. And that is going to have so much more evolutionary pressure. We are always going to forget the 9 good things in exchange for the one positive, or we're going to forget the 9 good things because we're going to focus on the one negative thing. And that just makes sense. So recognize that there are problems in the world. There is, quote, evil, if we want to throw that word around. But I would love to encourage you to focus on the positive, to work towards changing the, quote, negative, and to embrace this beautiful life that we have, because it's not going to get any better in that sense.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I do have a question. So mentioning or telling people you do evil because you're embodying your inner Cain, right? Does Todd really believe that that's going to be persuasive? And if so, what is a person supposed to do with that statement? Should they engage Todd with that?
Well, I guess it's not going to be persuasive on people that don't believe in anything.
Well, the thing is, a lot of believers believe that they are descendants of Adam and Adam and Abel and the good side of the religion. They are direct line from the divine. So telling them...
I only brought that up as an example because that story transcends other cultures. That at some point a long time ago, there probably was 2 brothers. I don't know if they were, but it's plausible because science has already proven that there was an Eve.
I mean,
no, you're completely misrepresenting mitochondrial
yeah.
Eve. It's just a scientific term. There isn't a one woman from which all humans
trillions
come
of
from.
brothers, though, right? Like, there have been lots and lots of brothers throughout society, like throughout human existence. There have been brothers, many of them in conflict, and some of those things are going to resonate across cultures. That's all certainly true. None of that requires us to make these sort of logical leaps about, comparative religion.
Yeah. I think that at the end of the day, maybe what we're all getting at a little bit is trying to put in a little bit more focus on what you do want to see. On, we're asking about what would be persuasive, what would be helpful. I lived in rural Mississippi for a while. I'm somewhat familiar, at least, with some, I would argue, progressive deserts. Is that a thing? And I bet just a little bit of focus on what you can agree on might be helpful. A little bit of just, even for yourself, just be like, what is good? That might help a little bit. Like, what does the inner Abel look like? And living in that today, maybe. Mm. I mean, just don't get hit in the head with a rock. That'd be a bummer.
Every time I try to do something personally, I always think about the consequences. I think about what it's going to do to the other person. I mean, I'm not a perfect person. I've done a lot of bad things in my life and things that I regret. But I've never stepped on anybody when they were down. I've never stolen anything from my friends. I try to do good everywhere in my life, but I don't have to do that because I claim to believe in God. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are atheists, and they have just as much or more morals than I do. And they don't believe in anything, just like you guys don't believe in anything.
Atheists believe in an absolute shitload of things. It's just that God isn't one of them.
I think I would say, though, you've actually, even just by pointing out...
I don't believe in God in the way that it's just it is described in the Bible.
I think that...
I get God from science. Mm-hmm. Science is what proved to me that God exists.
So I'm just gonna
some form.
Let's go back to one of your previous points, though, Todd.
Living in this
Todd.
Hey, Todd.
Give us a second. Sophia's trying to say something. Go ahead.
I do think something you were able to see right there, though, is things that you have done that are good. Like having a little bit of self-appreciation isn't a bad thing. You, by not being a dick, are proving that there is good in the world, and maybe that Right. In and of itself can give you something to think about there, you know?
God through my actions. That's why I was telling you earlier, we manifest good or evil through what we do.
Maybe it's manifesting, maybe it's just being cool, you know? It doesn't need to feel so heavy as that, as just being a good citizen, being, you know, doing your best.
Right. No, I agree with that.
Yeah, Todd, your theology baffles me. Like, I could have an entire separate conversation about what God is to Todd and why Todd believes in all of the things Todd believes. It just kind of blows my mind. Like God through science. I don't. One of the reasons I don't believe in a God or gods is because they seem to be scientifically impossible. So that's a whole other conversation. But does Todd have any sort of final thoughts on this topic, or any plans going forward to be more, like, engender more good in the world?
Well, I guess I need to stop assuming that everybody around me is coming from life from the same angle that I am. I'm sorry, my throat's sticking. Let me get a drink of water.
Drinking water is always a good idea.
I really enjoyed the conversation. I've never really talked to anybody that doesn't believe in anything other than...
We know what you mean. We know what you mean. Calm down, everybody. We got it.
I'm breathing. No, we appreciate your time, Todd. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, Todd.
Be good.
Yeah, okay, so that notion of atheists not believing in anything definitely didn't mean for that to, I guess, throw the entire call off. But I think Jamie and I both are having some feelings that maybe need to be addressed. Like, it is worth pointing out that because we don't have a belief in a God doesn't mean that we don't have an appreciation of morality, of, like, goodness in the world, of wanting to make the world a better place. And just because we are willing to sort of accept and embrace the world as it is doesn't mean we aren't eager to see it change.
Yeah. And shit fire, man. The whole atheists don't believe in anything. It really does get on it grinds my gears. It rustles my jimmies because I have a very broad and vast belief system and a worldview. There's so many things I believe in, and I can justify my beliefs for the most part. And to just have that phrase thrown at me, I've never talked to someone who doesn't believe in anything. I'm like, but we do. There are so many things I believe in. And I feel that it's a bit of a disingenuous thing to say, even though I don't think there was any malice. Also, I don't know whether you noticed what I was doing. I didn't want to mention it during the call, but Todd, it's not liberal bullshit to give pronouns. So if anyone calls in and does pronouns none, I am just going to refer to them by their name. And
I wondered why you were doing the third person thing so much. And I was like, is it because God believes in Todd or something? I was trying to make it rhyme. I was in my own head a little bit about that. So, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm going to be the most passively aggressive motherfucker on the planet. I'm not going to call it out. I'm just going to do what they ask.
What does Todd think?
Yes, what is Todd's objective?
It's interesting. I don't know what it is about the believing in nothing thing that just slides off me as like okay, sure, like just move. And I know that it's been like leveled at me. I've been told that I put myself as a god because I'm an atheist, and I was just like, look at me, really? I hear my sister laughing in the background. I just want to keep making jokes to make her laugh. Sorry, it's going to derail the whole show. But yeah, so it is interesting. I feel like it hits very differently depending upon the atheist, I suppose.
Yeah, well, there is this sort of existential obligation to take responsibility for your own actions. And when you are deeply entrenched in a faith system, you often sort of abdicate that responsibility. Like, I don't need to worry about what's right and wrong because I have this ancient poetry that tells me what is right and wrong. And yeah, sure, that ancient poetry does involve like some pretty terrible and disgusting things, but who am I to say what is right and wrong? I'm going to follow the gross book. Like,
I'm going to follow the gross book.
So, yeah, it is really sort of insulting when you have actually done the work and put in the energy and effort to develop a moral philosophy and to take responsibility for yourself and to acknowledge and accept that whether I'm following this book or whether I'm following this teacher or whether I'm just making shit up on the fly, that we are all of us making choices, and there are choices that we need to stand behind.
And again, it was still a good conversation. Like, I think that Todd just wanted to vent their frustrations. There, I used I used a safe pronoun. Their frustrations as to the state of the world, and that's understandable. I mean, again, to be more charitable, like that kind of like ever-present, like fuck about the world is difficult to handle, especially if you feel isolated, like it sounds like Todd was. I would have pointed out maybe that, again, we don't want to put people in danger. I mean, it can actually be risky to like be out and proud atheist and or at least be progressive in a conservative area. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible. We, in our collaborations, we've talked to people who have started secular gatherings in like deep rural Louisiana, where it's like saying anything against God could get you shot, kind of thing. It is possible, but it does take bravery and risk, and I wouldn't demand that of anybody, I don't think. Yeah, so if you have any thoughts on why is there so much evil in the world, do feel free to call us again, 512-991-9242, or on aca.show/call, or a request up on TikTok. I don't think we've had any TikTokers shout out to come and talk to us, which I'm a bit disappointed in, because I did invite a few people in some comments.
Call in, you cowards.
To come talk. I mean, I could understand if you're nervous, but it does feel a little bit... I share Richard Gilliver's frustration, where you get into these long conversations online with people and in the comments section of videos and whatever, and they're so vehement about their standpoints, and we're so very wrong. And I go, well, come and talk to me. And they're like, yeah, all right, wouldn't they? And then they won't. They verily do. Which is why when they very occasionally do, I always like to lionize their bravery at the very least, even if they're talking complete bollocks.
Yep. Fair enough, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so to this notion of religion as a business, I guess I am curious what an ideal would be. You know, I recognize fully that no one at the Vatican is interested in what us three heathens have to say about how they ought to operate as a business. But as atheists who are like pushing for change, who are pushing to create a better world, what are sort of the talking points about how to work with religion, how to allow religion in society, how to respect people's belief systems while making sure that that business is not grifting? Or what should that look like?
The difficulty is that with any, like if you are selling a product, if your business is around selling a product or a service, that service should be tangible, like it should be real. And the problem with religion, some of the promises, some of the product is unfalsifiable. It's like salvation or like goodness or protection or an afterlife. And it's like, I can't get on board with you false advertising. It's like someone trying to sell a graphics card on eBay and sending you a brick in a box. It's like, this is not what I paid for. So
yeah, I think my take is first recognize the limitation in that we will never stop all grift. If people will pay for Tate McRae's bathwater, people will pay for a lot of things, right? And it's not my job to tell them what they'll spend their money on. However, I think maybe culturally, I would even say some of this could just be a cultural shift into focusing. Oh, I lost myself there for a second. Into focusing on not accumulating, on actually making the world an easier, more equitable place for people who need it. Focusing on what justice really means interpersonally, as opposed to this long range eternity kind of feeling. I think you could even do that fully within the bounds of your religion. I could go into things like tax policy for like a while about, the changes I would want to see that I think would actually shift away from some of what I see as religious grift, because I think that we unnecessarily privilege folks who can talk a good game about religion, even with public money and public interest. I think we should rein it in and say just because you have a belief doesn't mean that there need to be less tax funding for the rest of us that you deserve, that you have a right to that. So I would say secular government first of all, but then having a cultural focus on actually helping and not accumulating. It looks like we have an audience question or comment.
Ooh, sweet.
I can't hear it.
If you're talking, we ain't hearing.
Now we're still testing the mic. Mic test. There it is.
There you
Hello,
go,
everyone.
Beardy.
Welcome to the atheist community of Austin, where everything works perfectly the first time. Hi. You all know me. I know all you. For everyone out there, I'm Ben. I'm the board chair of the ACA. And the call from Todd really made me think a lot about, we have a lot of folks out there who are theists, but we have a lot in common in terms of like how angry we are about the world, how frustrated and how isolated we're feeling. And it made me think about, like, we have the three of you here in this area, but at some point in your lives, you were Todd. You were alone in a place, and everyone else around you didn't agree with you, and you were a young atheist or elsewhere in your own journey. And I was wondering if you guys would want to talk about, or mind talking about, what was that part of your life like, and how did you go from Todd to finding a space like here?
Good question.
The rare occasion that the algorithm did its job. It brought me to a place where I wanted to be, because I was going through a real bad patch during COVID for multiple reasons. And I'd gotten back into it was actually through the nerd part of YouTube, because there's a particular creator by the name of goes by H-Bomber guy, Harris Brewer. He does like videos of like commenting on media and video games, but he also does some excellent and scathing commentary on political issues and things about religion and faith and stuff as well. So it was his thing about vaccines, like the anti-vax movement and flat Earth, and climate change, the famous, who's going to buy a bed and fucking Aquaman? that whole thing that started the algorithmic ball rolling and led me to the atheist community of Austin. Now, I had all of these kind of like angers around irrational thought in general. It was actually very much against the anti-vax movement, because I work adjacent to healthcare, and I was watching people die. Basically, I was hearing stories of people not being able to get their cancer treatments and the like because people weren't masking, they weren't like following the protocols, and it was causing issues. And it was causing me a lot of distress. And then I found the ACA shows. I started calling in, and then one fateful day, Objectively Dan, live on the show while I was calling in, called out that I lived in Austin, and it's like, why aren't you here? And live on screen called me out and told me to come to the Free Thought Library, and I did. And that's kind of the story, but it was that I found my tribe through the internet, and then took the step with a bit of pushing to make it into an actual social circle and to start dedicating part of my life to it. How about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had experiences of basically deciding that my religious beliefs just didn't make any sense to me anymore, that I found them to be morally objectionable and just logically inconsistent. And when I was faced with that, I told no one. You know, I think I decided and sort of came out to myself as an atheist literally a solid year before I ever shared that with anybody else. Then I shared it with my partner, and it was a solid year more before I shared it with anybody beyond that. And even that was sort of not by choice. So I very much respect and appreciate that experience of being isolated and how challenging it can be to sit with these beliefs by yourself. And I would really encourage people to be open and honest and vulnerable with the people in their lives, while also recognizing that that isn't always an option or isn't always safe. There's so much of your life that can be sort of torn down when you walk away from religion and lose your community, lose perhaps your family or so many social connections. It can be an absolutely exhausting and demanding process. I don't blame anybody for feeling sort of Toddish about it, for becoming really exhausted in that alienation and perhaps bitter, just holding a negative worldview oftentimes. And yet, I would really, really hope that anybody who's watching this can find community, whether it's here through the ACA or wherever else.
Yeah, I think when I think about that level of being alone isn't something I experienced as much as an atheist as it was something that I experienced a lot when I was in the church. When I was at the Conservative Baptist Church, a lot of the things that I was told about who I was supposed to be and how I was supposed to be and how I couldn't be in leadership, even though I was the best public speaker there. And that, all those rules, I just like, this doesn't seem like it can be right. It doesn't seem that men are just such visual creatures. They can't help but visually undress me if I were to talk about Jesus in front of them. That doesn't seem like a real rule. And honestly, I think that my escape initially was just reading a lot of good fiction and realizing there's a lot of human stories. And when outrageous things would be said, it's like, well, first of all, this sort of sexism was prevalent throughout all of history. And then it kind of became, I remember actively disagreeing about the youth pastor didn't say the only good Muslim is a dead Muslim, but he did say that, well, if a Muslim is dead, then they can't espouse their ideologies anymore. And I was like, that's basically the same thing. That seems bad. That seems wrong. Just having a level of like, I don't have a perfect argument for it yet, but this can't be right. Mm-hmm. And knowing that, the more human stories I encountered, the more I believed that. The more I believed that that was wrong. Over time, I think it was also just realizing that if it's me, then I'm not alone. There's no opinion. The world is so big. There's no opinion only I hold. And so just like, I'm not the only one. There have been people like this throughout history, finding that kind of, I don't want to say intellectual heritage. That sounds pompous, but maybe emotional heritage of people who have been alone. And that's sort of a badge of honor, in my opinion, to be able to be alone and still stand for what you think is right. And I think there's an opportunity in that maybe for the Todds of the world, too.
Heard.
Don't get me started on Islamophobia, man. That's
That's
a current bug, but that's a whole other conversation. But
yeah, we got a little bit of crunch. Y'all think we can quickly get in a conversation with Anne in California?
I think
yes.
so. So that is Anne, pronoun she, her, wants to talk about religion as a business and the context of the holiday Christmas. Oh, Christmas in August. Okay, what's on your mind,
Yeah.
Anne?
Hi, how are you all today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm healing from my broken ankle, so.
Oof, I had one of those once. No bueno. Anyways, sorry, let's talk about Christmas then after that. But
And I know. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't like to bring it up in August, but you guys were talking about, religion, I guess, as a business. And things like that. And it put me in mind of, I don't know how long it's been, 20 years or whatever, when all of a sudden Christians started saying there's a war on Christmas.
yeah.
And I'm like, what? We can't, I mean, Christmas has so much power over us that I'm talking about it in August.
Yeah.
So,
How much more do you want?
yeah.
How much territory do we have to cede?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving's already been defeated. Halloween's in trouble.
Halloween's in trouble. Okay, Halloween is also a consumerist holiday. It's going to be fine. But yes.
Yeah. I don't mind that consumerism. That's candy. So
Candy is great. Is there any particular aspect of the consumerism around Christmas that comes up for you when you think about it?
What specifically is grinding your gears?
Well, overall Christmas is, it's such a big money holiday. And, forever everybody was in on it. And then there were some Christians I would hear in the last few years saying, no, it's a Christians only holiday. And I'm thinking, okay, tell that to the big box retailers on all that money.
Yeah, but please, can it be? Like, can we make it that way? Like, I'm on board.
Well, the weird thing about Christmas from my...
yeah.
Now, the weird thing about Christmas from my standpoint is that a lot of Christians actually will rail against the commercialism of Christmas, but thinking about it, is it because it's competition? Like, don't buy toys and gifts because you've got to give that money to Jesus. So, what do you think about that?
Well, yeah. Well, go ahead.
Oh, no. As I say, any thoughts on that concept of Christians railing against consumerism because they want to be the product and not the latest? I was about to say the latest thing from Toys R Us, but that doesn't exist anymore.
It does in some countries.
Yeah. So how about that aspect there, Anne?
Well, there are some Christians that say that, but I think some, like, if you're going to call it a Christian holiday and it's this big commercial holiday, and again, I'm not talking about all Christians. I'm not talking about the ones who rail against the commercialism of it. I see where they're coming from, but the ones that are fine with the commercialization of it, then aren't they kind of commercializing and turning their religion into a business if they're going to insist it's a Christian holiday?
I think that's the issue you end up facing when you want your religion to be so dominant across every aspect of the culture. It's going to end up becoming every toy store is going to be a Christian toy store. It's all going to be just mega churches all around. Every mall is going to act as though it's a representative of Christianity. When people talk about wanting this like Christian culture and Christian world, I don't know that they always realize that the cost of that is that our capitalism becomes synonymous with Christianity in this conceptualization. Is that really what you want this to be about? I unfortunately think a lot of them don't see a problem with that, gotta say, at this point. I also think that we have really, we've married the magic of Christmas to stuff. And I think that's been happening for a long, long time, right? Like, I mean, Santa brings you toys, right? Honestly, I don't have as much of an issue with Christmas. I feel like if we allow it to be secular, because then we can just critique commercialism. We can critique just this unbridled need to have more stuff. But I think as soon as religion gets involved, there's this need to defend it on the part of some, which is, I guess, a bummer for them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really have a good conclusion there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just highlight that, like, we typically don't do a show or pre-shoot a show here at the ACA around Christmas. That by and large, the people who are part of this organization either celebrate Christmas or in some way participate. I mean, however we want to define our terms. Yeah, there is maybe a part of me that wonders, when we're going to a Christmas party, are we sort of empowering this holiday that might be sort of the front porch of religious extremism? And yeah, there are definitely questions to be asked there. But I think if we are going to be in a multicultural society, we have to just kind of embrace it all, put up with the bad music, and find
I like
our
Christmas
own ways
music.
to...
I do. Wow, that's the dirtiest look I've gotten from you ever.
Everything that I have to say is just out of my mind.
I'm sorry.
I think we might have something of a scuffle after the show.
I just want to point out that Muppet Christmas Carol exists, and the music in that is stunning.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
so
every rule has an exception.
Be careful, Miss Spina. You may invoke the spirit of Carrie. She will defrost early from her icy tomb and come for us and tell us that all she wants for Christmas is you.
I would want me for Christmas too, so
Yeah.
I can't even blame her. But I was actually talking with another mom friend who's also an atheist who has like little babies, and baby hasn't reached her first birthday yet, and she was like, how do you Christmas? How do you do that in like a largely religious extended family, but as the mother of a small child? And I actually just said Muppet Christmas Carol is my is my Christmas focus. I just base everything around it. You know?
And the thing is, I'm a massive proponent of the secularization of religious ritual. I'm happy for like carols and mass and going to a big building and even like going through the motions of praising Jesus or whatever and doing nativity plays, as long as everyone involved knows that it's all just myth and story, not real. So, I'm happy to let it continue.
So if we're drawing this comparison to the commercialization of Christmas and like Christian Christmas purists, you two are also comfortable with saying like, no, like we can have our Christmas, we just don't want it to be religious, and we can kind of, I don't know, claim or colonize part of that.
Yeah.
I think I also am okay. You know, I talk with one of my children is old enough to kind of understand what's going on and just say, yeah, this is what some people believe. Just like how, well, we also don't actually pretend Santa's real in my household. So it's just like, you know, this is a game we play together that Santa comes, and some people believe this is a holiday where this happened. And so I think in his mind, it's actually kind of the same. I'm happy with the religious stories, but it's also, perhaps my perspective is a little different because my mother is from Old School Church of Christ, where they didn't sing Christmas carols. They didn't do Christmas at church. That was like a separate family thing because they didn't want to like elevate that day above another. So, you know, even in her lifetime, she'll talk about, we would sing, if we sang anything, it was like Jingle Bells, but they wouldn't sing like Joy to the World because they wouldn't do religious Christmas. So my perspective is also Christmas is kind of secular even amongst some people in the church. So maybe that makes it a little easier.
Fair to say.
Any last thoughts on that, Anne?
Well, yeah, I mean, I always thought, because for the longest time, forever in my life, you know, Christmas was pretty much for anyone who wanted to participate. And you could do religious Christmas, or you could do, you know, just getting a tree and buying presents and just having a family get together and baking stuff. And, you know, but it was still secular because, you know, I went to public school. And, you know, we would sing like Jingle Bells and stuff like that at Christmas time. And then I would have church where they would sing like Silent Night. And that song always made me cry.
Oh, it's beautiful.
In church.
Beautiful.
It annoyed my mom.
See, Christmas music's good, Christy. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But, and I'm like you, Sophia. I didn't raise my son to really believe in things like Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy, Easter Bunny, anything like that. Like if he had questions like, well, this is just, you know, these characters that come out this time of year. This is what people do.
Yeah. It's just fun.
It's
we all
tradition.
have. Yeah.
Yeah. But I have seen parents who really commit to the bit.
And it can hurt them. I have journal entries from when I was 8 years old and I discovered Santa was not real. And I was so mad. I had a red crayon and that was my face. And it was big for me. I could talk about Christmas all day, apparently. So sorry, everyone. I know we're trying to wrap up.
Well, thanks for calling in. Thanks for reminding us of the upcoming, you know, we all celebrate the birth of a very special person every December, and that's me. So screw that carpenter bloke. It's all about me.
We should put
baby.
you in a manger. We like have you all, you know, swaddle. We can swaddle you.
Good luck carrying me. Anyway,
put wheels on the manger.
I'm just a little Hannibal Lecter, just like bundled up. I am going to eat my Christmas pudding with fava beans and a nice Chianti. But anyway, thank you very much for calling in. And yes, this is...
Thank you for having me.
Rapidly derailing, and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And thanks for calling in.
All right, you too. All right, bye-bye.
Fun show, interesting conversation.
Yeah, also the idea of a Christian toy shop just made me like... Yeah, buy your new Jesus action figure with real resurrection action. Anyway.
Just Noah's Ark wall to wall.
Yeah, Noah's Ark playset. Animals sold separately. But anyway.
The little felt guys that you have from Sunday school. I don't know if anyone else remembers those, but everywhere.
But anyway, so yes, thank you very much once again for tuning in from Tinternet on YouTube and TikTok. Thank you very much for my co-host Sofia Spina and Christy Powell, the chillest crew. I call us Empathy Squad because we're all about the empathy.
Aww.
Thanks again to the crew who make everything happen, and again, a wonderful special thanks to the people who came here in person to the back cruise, are in the audience, fantastic people, one and all. Yay! Soak it in, lads. Soak it in. Okay, and so maybe we should project some love rings out in a moment. I'm just piling things onto the crew at the back, but let's see if
Yay, love rings!
Yeah, who are we
Love
sending out love rings to?
After you, Christy. Who the love rings going out to?
I suppose everybody who is, I guess, now having to get ready for Christmas music. Certainly everybody who traveled out for the Bat Cruise. In particular, the crew and everybody who has worked for months, really, to get this event up and running and on its feet. Very grateful to be a part of it.
How about yourself, Sophia?
Yeah, Bad Cruise folks, for sure. That was super cool, super fun, and I'm always stoked to have everybody. And also, it is my 2-year-old's birthday. She's 2 today, so love rings to her.
Love rings to her. Love rings to our good friend and co-host, Secular Rarity. It's also his day of spawning anniversary. Dodge the scythe one more time. Good job. And so thank you very much once again. And remember that Talk Heathen and the atheist community is a place for everybody. So if you don't believe, this is the place for you. But if you do believe, we don't hate you.
We're just
not convinced.
See you later.
We want the truth. So watch Truth Wanted live Sundays at 2:45 p.m. Central and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at aca.show/call.